Hey y'all, my name is Yvette and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books that I have on hold at my library. To be specific, they are all the audiobooks and ebooks I have on hold through my Libby app, and really they're mostly audiobooks. Unless I specify that it's an ebook, just assume it's an audiobook that I'm talking about. And because the overwhelming majority of what I read comes from audiobooks from the library, this is going to be kind of a long TBR of books that I plan to read sometime during the next 6 months. I live in a pretty big city with access to 2 pretty decent libraries, so there are going to be quite a few books I'm talking about today. I believe it's around 40, and I can't guarantee that I will know the synopsis of every book or even a little bit of what they're about, but I will talk about why I decided to put them on hold. And before I begin, I should probably also note that this isn't actually my Libby account, it's my sister's. I did have my own library cards when I was little, but as children do, I checked out books and then lost them, and now I have a ton of fines to pay from the library, and I don't really want to do that, so I use my sister's library cards. I'm going to be talking about these books in order of books that are immediately available to borrow and books that will be available in 6 months. And actually right now there's only one book that's available to borrow right now, and that is From a Certain Point of View, a Star Wars anthology written by Seth Dixon and a ton of other authors. This is the second book in this series, and the first book I actually have a physical copy of right here. And with these books, they go through the movies scene by scene, and every scene is told from the point of view of a background character. So for example, in the first Star Wars movie, there's that trash compactor scene, and the scene is told from the point of view of the trash compactor monster. This book actually became available to me yesterday, but I put off actually borrowing it so I could talk about it in today's video because I am super excited to read it. And now, talking about books that I have to wait for, the first round of these books are going to be books that are available soon, which means they're going to be available to me sometime within the next 2 weeks. And the first of those is a nonfiction book called Braiding Sweetgrass: Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teaching of Plants by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I'm not entirely sure what this book is about beyond that like subtitle, but it's a nonfiction book about an indigenous topic, and I'm super interested to see what it's about. The next book is a Star Wars book, which is Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule. I don't know the plot of this book, but I know it takes place in the High Republic, which is a time period before any of the movies. It's when there was peace across the galaxy and like the Republic functioned as it was meant to, and this is about the Jedis of that time. Next book is another nonfiction, Dolly Parton's Songteller by Dolly Parton. So I'm assuming that this is an autobiography, which I didn't realize until just now, and I think this is about her life and who she is as a person. I don't think that any public figure is entirely good and should be put on a pedestal, but if there was one, I think Dolly Parton might come close because everything I've heard about her is about her doing good things in the world. And I know she started this literacy project where she got a ton of books into the hands of a ton of kids, and I want to know more about her. The next one is My Hero Academia Volume 22, and this is a manga series about superheroes that I absolutely love. Last year I really tore through a lot of the volumes really quickly, and this I think is either the third or second to last book in the series that my library has available, and I really don't know what I'm gonna do when I finish them. After that we have Persephone Station by Cena. Leech? What I know about this one is that it's a space opera, it has a person of color on the cover, and I believe it is queer. Like, I'm pretty sure it's queer. And then we have Sanctuary by Paula Mendoza. This is a YA contemporary about undocumented immigrants, and I don't know if I'm gonna read this book. I've had the opportunity to check it out quite a few times now, but I keep putting the loan off, and I don't know if I'm in the headspace right now to read about undocumented immigrants. Next up, back to nonfiction with Be My Guest: Reflections on Food, Community, and the Meaning of Generosity by Priya Basil, who I believe is an Indian author, an Indian British author I want to say, and I don't remember why I put this book on hold. I think I might have saw it on a couple of recommendation lists, but if any of you know what it's about or if it's good, let me know in the comments below. The next book I have on hold is The Way of the House Husband Volume 1, and this is a manga I believe, about a man who used to be in the mafia but who is now a house husband. I saw that an anime of this series is gonna be put on Netflix soon, so that's why I want to read this one. And the next one is A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow by Laura Taylor Namey. And I put this one on hold because one, it's Latinx, and two, I thought it was queer. For some reason, I assumed that the blonde person on the cover was an androgynous lesbian, but it's actually a guy. Nevertheless, I am still interested in reading it because I have seen some people on Latinx Book Twitter talk about this one. Latinx Book is another Star Wars book, and it is Chaos Rising by Timothy Zahn, and this is the first book of a trilogy that is the second Thrawn trilogy in the new Star Wars canon by the same author. I read the first Thrawn trilogy, and while I really liked the first book, I was super disappointed in the second and third book, so I'm going into this one with pretty low expectations, but I'm really wanting to like it because I think Thrawn is such an interesting character. Moving on to the next round of books, these are going to be books that will be available to me in approximately 2 weeks, and the first of those is Better Than People by Rowan Parrish, and this is an MM romance. I have read one other book by this author, and I thought it was a very okay 3-star kind of book, but I am super excited for this one because it has a dog on the cover. The next book is a nonfiction book, Black Count, Glory, Revolution, Betrayal, and the Real Count of Monte Cristo by Tom Rees. I swear those little subtitles, sometimes they're like so itty bitty tiny. I don't know how you're supposed to read them, but yeah, this is a nonfiction book about, I know what this one is about. So the author of the Monte Cristo and like the Three Musketeers, his dad was apparently what some elements of some of his books were about, and this is about his life. And yet another nonfiction book that will be available to me in approximately 2 weeks is The Great Migration, The Beauty and Terror of Life on the Move by Sonia Shaw. I believe that this book is going to be about the history and science behind migration of plants, animals, and people, and this one particularly interests me because it's supposed to address things like global warming and a lot of the negative sentiments that some world leaders have behind immigration of people, specifically how those sentiments are stupid because people have always moved around this planet and that's never going to change. The next book I have on hold is Teddy Spencer Isn't Looking for Love by Kim Fielding. This is an MM romance that's a part of the new Karina Adores imprint. No idea what it's about, still gonna read it. Next up, I have 20 After Midnight by Daniel Galera, and what I know about this book is that it's written by a Latin American author and it's translated from Spanish. It's about millennials and like obstacles that are specific to millennials, and I believe it's queer, but I don't know. There's like a 50-50 chance that this book is queer or not. After that, I have Rent a Boyfriend by Gloria Chow, and I'm assuming from the title that this is a romance with a fake dating trope, and I absolutely love the fake dating trope. It's one of my favorite things to read about in romances. The next book is The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter, and I have zero clue what this is about. I don't remember why I put it on hold, and usually when I don't remember why, it's because a book is queer, but I really don't know about this one. I might have heard it recommended from somewhere. I don't know. If you've read this book and you liked it, let me know. The next 2 books I'm going to be talking about are books that will be available to me in approximately 3 weeks. The first of which is My Hero Academia volume 23, so the next volume in this series. And then we have Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour, and Nina LaCour is known for her sapphic YA fiction. I've read a few of those and really enjoyed her work, and I believe this is her newest release. Next round of books are those that will be available to me in approximately 4 weeks, and the first one is Across the Green Grass Fields by Shauna McGuire. This is the next book in the Wayward Children series. Every book of that series I have loved, and I don't know which characters this book is going to be following, but I'm really looking forward to reading it. So all the books that I've talked about so far are books that I have personally put on hold, but this next book is one that my sister has put on hold, and that is Wow No Thank You by Samantha Irby. This is a collection of essays about what I'm not sure, but I've read one of this author's books before, and she is so funny, like actually laugh out loud funny, so definitely gonna read this one. The next one is a poetry collection, I Would Leave Me If I Could by Halsey. I love Halsey so much. She's one of my favorite artists. Manic is one of the things that got me through 2020, and I actually pre-ordered 2 different physical copies of her poetry book, but I was waiting for the audiobook to actually read it because she reads it herself. And I've been on hold for this damn audiobook for about 14 weeks now, so only 4 more to go. The next book is Jade City by Fonda. This is the first book of what I believe is an epic fantasy. I just know that Jocelyn was screaming about it for a while and Priscilla read it and liked it, so pretty sure I'm gonna like it too. Next book is Finding Latinx: In Search of Voices Redefining Latino Identity by Paula Ramos. Understanding my identity as a Latinx person has been something that has been ongoing for my entire life, and in the last 3 to 4 years especially, my understanding of what it means to be Latinx and what that specifically means for me has changed so drastically, and it's always evolving, and it's something that I want to read more of. Next up is another nonfiction about race, white feminism. From the suffragettes to the influencers to who they leave behind by Koa Beck. I feel like this book is pretty self-explanatory. White feminism is something that hurts us all, and here's a book about it. Next up is The Purpose of Power: How We Come Together When We Fall Apart by Alicia Garza. This is a memoir from one of the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement, and in a recent video, Ariel from She Wants Addiction talked about how she wants to read all the memoirs from the founders, and I thought that was a pretty good goal, so yeah, I want to do that too, and I'm starting with this one. Next up is the only book that will be available to me in approximately 5 weeks, and that is The Poppy War by Rf Kwong. I don't think I need to talk about why I need to read this book because I am showing up super late to the party. Next round of books are those that will be available to me in approximately 6 weeks, and the first one is The Archive of the Forgotten by A.J. Hackwith. This is the second book in a series about a library in hell, which is a super simplified synopsis of what this series is about, but I think pretty appropriate. I absolutely love the first book in this series, and it's the kind of book that is not without its problems, but I still rated it 5 stars. So yeah, super excited to read the next book in the series. Next up is Incendiary by Zoreta Cordova, and this is a Latinx YA fantasy that I don't know anything about, but I'm super interested in reading it because it's by an author I love, and I have avoided any details about it so I can go in it with completely knowing nothing. After that, I have on hold Hench by Natalie Zena Walshcotts, and I actually heard about this book from a podcast episode of Smart Bitches Trashy Books, and from that it got me really excited to read it because it's about superheroes, but it's about how fucked up like superheroes would actually make the world if they existed. Like, the author of the book actually ran the numbers and found out that the collateral damage of a superhero fight would vastly outweigh any good that the superhero could do. And the main character of this book is super angry about all the damage superheroes cause, and she becomes an employee of the worst supervillain and apparently saves the world along the way. The next book I'm talking about is We Have Always Been Here, a queer Muslim memoir by Samra Habib. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory why I put this book on hold. And the last book that I will have available to me in approximately 6 weeks is Unfree Speech: The Threat to Global Democracy and Why We Must Act Now by Joshua Wong. Joshua Wong is one of the leaders of the student protests in Hong Kong, and those protests I feel like is something I should know much more about. The next book on this list will be available to me in approximately 8 weeks, and that is Wandering in Strange Lands, A Daughter of the Great Migration Reclaims Her Roots by Morgan Jerkins. So what I know about the Great Migration is that in the first half of the 19th century, like before the Civil Rights Movement, a lot of Black people moved from the American South to the American North to escape the particular racism of the South, and I think it's just really interesting to think about the like social and cultural repercussions of that, and I think this book is gonna examine some of that, or it might just be a memoir, but either one I'm cool with. I think this is going to be a really interesting book. The next book will be available in approximately 10 weeks, and it is the only other book that my sister put on hold, and that is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. And about time she read this book because it is really good. And in approximately 11 weeks, I'm going to read Laziness Does Not Exist by Devin Price. This is a nonfiction book about laziness that I had heard of, but I wasn't really interested in until I heard an interview with the author. And I actually want to read out some of the notes that I took during the podcast episode because I think it's really interesting. And I don't know who would take notes during a podcast like they're gonna be tested on it, but apparently I do. The concept of laziness is a capitalist and colonialist idea that is used to beat people into working harder, especially marginalized people. Systematic marginalization of vulnerable groups is innately tied to using laziness to justify discrimination because insecurity makes us easier to exploit. white supremacy drives this push of the idea of laziness and how you can't be lazy. From the enslavement of Black people to Reagan's myth about welfare queens to the stereotype of lazy Mexicans. And it's also tied in with fat phobia, and just the idea and the lie about laziness is super ingrained in our culture. And I think in the wake of COVID, our understanding of laziness has really changed. So all of that is like incredibly fascinating, and I can't wait to read this book. But also the author is non-binary and neurodivergent, and I think it's great that we're seeing more nonfiction books from marginalized people that's not specifically about their marginalizations. The next book I have on hold will be available in approximately 14 weeks, and that is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. This book is by Angie Thomas. I don't know what the synopsis is. I'm gonna read it. And in approximately 20 weeks, I'll be able to read My Body Is Not an Apology, The Power of Radical Self-Love by Sonia Renee Taylor. This is a nonfiction book about what I'm assuming is self-love. The author I know is an activist and a poet, and that cover is amazing. Also available to me in 20 weeks is going to be the only ebook I have on hold, and that is The Duke Who Didn't by Courtney Milan. I've been meaning to read something of Courtney Milan's for quite a while now, and I think I have like 2 books of hers on my Kindle that I just haven't gotten around to reading, but this book is her most recent release, and like I've heard nothing but like glowing reviews about it. I know this is a romance because like duh, it's Courtney Milan, it's a romance, but I don't know the plot of it. But I'm still looking forward to reading it. And finally, the last book I have on hold that will be available to me in 22 weeks is These Violent Delights by Kwong. I want to say that this is a Romeo and Juliet retelling in 1920 Shanghai. Not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's about. I do have an e-arc of this book that I still haven't read because I'm terrible at getting through ebooks, but this is actually the audiobook of it that I have on hold, so I'm definitely going to get to it that way. So those are all the books that I currently have on hold at my library, and I feel like I have a pretty good reading year ahead of me. If you've read and liked any of these books, come let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.